So some of the functions that the Bursar's office will help you with, we do student billing. So we bill in the fall, that is done in July, it's typically due in August. And then in the spring, we bill in December, those bills are due in January. And then of course, if your student decides to take summer classes, those are typically billed in April, May, and due in June or July. So some of the things that we do, we assist with payment options. Somebody had already asked, thank you, about our monthly payment plan. That is administered through Tuition Management Systems Nelnet, and there are links available on our direct website, the Bursar's page, to access the monthly payment plan. So with the payment plan, a couple things to keep in mind. There is no interest, however, there is an enrollment fee. You can enroll for the entire year, and you would break out your budget fall and then spring. And then you also have the ability to adjust that budget at any point. You can also use the payment plan for any amount. You don't have to use it for the full bill. You can use it if you want to use a 529 plan for a portion and then use the payment plan to pay for part of that. You're welcome to do that. So Tuition Management Systems will set the plan up with you. You determine your budget, and then you make payments directly to them monthly. Those payments are then sent to WPI, and on your student bill, if you're enrolled in the payment plan, you'll see your budget, and then you may see some corresponding payments that you've already made. We also are the liaisons for the student health insurance, which is billed to you annually in the fall. This is a mandatory requirement through the state of Massachusetts. The health insurance is, you may waive the fee if your student is covered, or yourself, if you're covered under a current plan, you can waive the health insurance cost, or you can also choose to enroll, and that would cover you for the year. So that goes from August to August. We process any student refunds, so the financial aid gets dispersed to your account. You may have a credit on your account. You can request a refund. And most of our requests and things of that nature are all done electronically from our Bursar's office webpage. We do meal plan changes. Again, that's an electronic request available on our website. And then the 1098 tax forms are electronic, which come out in January, and we process those for you as well. So I want to talk a little bit about the Banner self-service. This is specific for students. So this is where a student would go and register for courses, view their current charges. There's a link to the health insurance site. There's a link to the e-bill site. So I'm going to show you that. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. I've logged in. This is a demo site, so disregard some of the things that you're seeing here. The important tab is the Student Services and Financial Aid link. So a student would log in here, and they would be able to do registration, check their student account. We do have a different vendor for our financial aid, so this will link you out to the financial aid portal. If the student wants to view their student account, they would click this link, and they would simply click the account detail for term, and then you can select your current term. So this is, again, just a demo. We've added some charges and a health insurance waiver, so you'll see what this would look like. Unfortunately, you won't see the detail of the pending financial aid because that is through a different portal. But you would see any payments available that have been posted to the student account. If I go back to the Student Service and Financial Aid tab, again, you can link out to the financial aid portal. You can link out to waive the health insurance. And if we click the student accounts, it's going to link us out to the e-bill and e-payment site. And this is where your student can give you access to view the bill and make payments. And I'll show that link in one moment. One thing I do want to mention is access to the student e-bill and e-payment site is separate from this proxy. So a student also has the option to give a parent proxy access within the Banner self-service site to view their schedule and grades if they choose to select those. So they're two separate things. Unfortunately, there's a lot of different places for students to go and to grant access. In the future, hopefully that will be streamlined. That will be one place that they will go. We are implementing a new student record system. So back to my agenda here. We're going to link out to the eBill site, and this is the CashNet now CashNet eBill site. This is where you can view student statements, make payments. The student can add you as an authorized user, enroll in text messaging, and then enroll in direct deposit. So let me show you this site. And again, this is a test, Joe test, as you can see. So when you first log in, there will be some important notices here. One thing to mention is the e-bill that's going to be posted on this site is not dynamic. So we ask that students and families check the Banner self-service site for the most up-to-date current information on their student account. That's real time. Whereas this site, it's going to be a static bill at the time that we publish. So always check the Banner self-service site for the most up-to-date current information. We're going to link you out to TMS here, and then if you would like to decline a loan, we give you some instructions, and then if you'd like to pay by a wire, there's a link to Flywire here. So on this site, this is, again, where this is a student logging in, so they can sign up for direct deposit. Here is where they would send a payer invitation to grant you authorized access. So simply the student would click this, they would enter the information and say that they want to give you access to the statements, send the invitation. You will get an email with instructions on how to log into the CashNet site, and then you will have that login throughout the duration. So you can go in and make payments on behalf of the student. So a couple things to note here. And again, there's no statements, this is a test site, but this is where any of the e-bills published would be listed, and they do show historically. Any payment options, you would just click here. And this is very similar to the parent access, by the way, or the authorized user access. You enter in your amount, click make payment, and unfortunately you do have to scroll a little bit, click continue. And then you select your payment method. So you can do a credit card or debit card. There is a convenience fee for that, 2.75% of the amount that you are paying, or you can use a electronic check and there is no fee for that. So back to Joe's account here. This is going to give you some information. He can add a payment method. He can, again, add a payer invitation, enroll in direct deposit, and sign up for text notifications. The text notification basically just sends you a text message alerting you that a new electronic bill has been published to your student account. So I'm just going to go back and show you what a student bill looks like, and you should have already your students should have already received an email that a electronic bill is available for them to view. So the student statement is going to have information here up top, which is just going to talk about the term, how much is due, the due date. We do ask, I know it's a lot of information, we ask that people do read the notes section. It gives you links to the health insurance waiver and just gives you some information that's important to the bill statement. And then you'll see here it breaks down your student charges, anything that you've been charged, and then any of the pending financial aid that's been awarded to you. So those will show in the credit column that will deduct and give you the current due. One thing to mention here is any new incoming student is going to have a housing and meal plan estimated charge on their student account. And that's due to the timing of when we do the assignments in the housing application. So you will receive an updated bill with any variance or any change in those charges. So this is basically what the student bill will look like. Now, again, you would see this on the CashNet site as a student, or an authorized user would view that as well. And then that's all I have from my end. Just a couple things, please. Any questions, email us at bursar@wpi.edu. We are working remote, and so we do have our phone line access, but it is kind of limited to how many calls we can accept at one time. So we do ask that you be patient with us. Email really is right now the best way to contact us. We're responding as quickly as we can. And then we also have a dedicated web page to new students on the Bursars page. So the link is there. If you just go to the Bursars office page direct on the WPI website, you'll find a plethora of information for you there. And also one other thing I want to mention that we have available is tuition insurance, which is available through GradGuard, and there is a link on the new student page. And that allows you to purchase some insurance in case your student has to withdraw from WPI, and you can sort of have a little backup of your investment there. So you might want to check out the link on our website. And at this point, I'm going to pass it on to Rosie, and then Ryan will be fielding questions, so we're happy to answer those as well. Thank you. Rosie, you're on mute still.
Thanks, Lynn. New to this remote learning stuff here. So before I get started, I just wanted to, I saw one question pop up, and I know, Ryan, you're managing that, but just before we start, the question that was, is financial aid award added to the bill? So Lynn did mention about credit being applied. So on that e-bill, you would see financial aid such as student loans, direct loans, things like that, applied to the bill as a credit. So it will stay on there, and I'll talk a little bit about that during my presentation, but it will stay on there as a credit until all the requirements are met and the funds are dispersed to the student's account. But as you plan on paying that bill, you can estimate that credit as part of what the amount less of what you'll owe, which should be already applied in that, right? Correct, Lynn?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, so I am going to share my screen now. So I have a similar presentation as it relates to student aid and financial literacy. So here we are. This is the Bartlett Center, and this is where many of you probably are familiar. It's where the admissions team is housed, as well as the student aid and financial literacy. So as students matriculate, we would encourage you to come and see us. We're always here for students to help throughout the financial aid steps and things in the process. So let's begin. So I'm also going to be discussing what we do. We're going to also talk about the student portal. So as you heard about, there's some different portals for looking at your e-bill. You also have a portal which Lynn did show you where you would link to the financial aid. There are a couple ways of getting in there. That is one of them. I will also go over another one that you can link into the same portal. So we'll be looking at what the portal is, as well as kind of breaking it down so you can understand what's in there and then we'll talk about some requirements in order for aid to be dispersed. So as we mentioned a few minutes ago, there's aid on there as credit. So some of the aid that you have does have requirements in order for the aid to disperse to a student's account. So we'll go over that as well. So the student aid and financial literacy does a variety of functions. Our main role for students in assisting students and families is to assist and explain on how to apply for financial aid. So many of you would have already completed the FAFSA as well as the CSS profile. So that is a piece of the beginning steps of the financial aid process. Important to note, as you matriculate, after your first year, the CSS profile is no longer required. Yay, just the FAFSA. Unless there are some circumstances that have changed, without getting into too much detail, if there has been significant changes such as a divorce or things like that, then there may be the additional requirements. But for the majority of students, it will only be the FAFSA that you complete each year. and it's the May 1st is the deadline, and it opens in October. So as students begin in the fall, that FAFSA will be opening for the following academic year, and I'd encourage you to to let your students, your sons and daughters know to start that process early. We're going to talk about understanding your financial aid requirements for aid to pay, as well as managing financial aid options. Those are some things that our office does do and assist with. So if you have questions specific to loans, or you're trying to figure out how to navigate that process, please know that we are here to help you, and we can work with you on making sure that you have your plans in place, not just for the first year, but for the 4 years. We also talk to students about retaining aid. So with having financial aid, there are requirements that the federal government, as well as institutional-based, require for satisfactory academic progress. So we meet with students, and we have information for students to know what those conditions are in order to retain the aid or scholarship that they have. And then we also have financial literacy programming. So we know if your student is coming here, they are academically of excellence, and we want to make sure not only they're successfully academically, but also financial wealth and future prosperity. So we work with students in programming for financial literacy events, whether it be budgeting, credit, and investing, things like that. So we encourage students to check to keep in touch with us so that they can follow along on some of those other added benefits of our program. So let's get started. So this is similar to the portal. This is the current students portal login. You would be logging into this portal with the username and ID that you had assigned when you logged in through the admissions team. So it's the same username and ID. On the portal, you can log in through this website here, or through the link that Lynn had showed us earlier with the banner web login. Within this portal, it's important to note you will see your financial aid award letter via email format. Within that letter, you'll also see required financial aid documents. The documents I'm going to show you a screenshot of it if you haven't seen it yet, but it'll show you what's required. So there's going to be things that students will be required to complete even after their financial aid package is done, such as loan requirements, which we'll get into. There's also requested additional information that's on there, and that's typically when the caseload director who oversees each student has a caseload director, and they will be maintaining that student's file for the beginning and for that academic year. And as we go through files, we'll see if there's any requested information we need, and we'll make sure that that note is in there. It won't be specific as exactly what's needed. For requested additional documentation, it's typically an email that goes to a student saying, we need some additional documentation, and this is what it is, and it breaks it down. So if you have that in there, you're not sure, you can always email or check your email to see if you have something from financial aid asking. Also on your student portal, we'll let you know what the status is of your financial aid documents. So if you were requested to send some information in and you have submitted it, it will show on there as requested until the financial aid counselor is able to review that, and then they will satisfy it. So it's important to note, if you do send it in, it could take up to a few weeks for that to change in the system. And then eventually what happens is it comes off. So here's a sample. I'm not sure how clear it is, but I tried to see if I can screenshot and put it on. But you'll see that there's, to the right, you'll have checklist items. The checklist items are the things that the student it requires to send in, or as you can see here, they're in green, which means they've completed those requirements. So it's a good idea to check that to see what your requirements are. Here you will find information on what is required for your direct loans, as well as if you had needed to complete the FAFSA or maybe you missed the CSS profile. So here you'll see that information. So I wanted to make sure I pulled this up as well, because as we were just talking about the portal, which will show you what's required or what's missing, many students have, all students have the federal direct loans on their award package. There are a couple steps that they can take in order to accept or in order to reduce or decline those. So it's important to take a look at that. In addition, there's the WPI Institute Manning Loan or Institute Loan. That loan is awarded to students based on the FAFSA as well. So it's not a loan that you can apply for. It's one that you automatically qualify if you're eligible for it. So if you have the WPI Manning loan, within the student portal, there'll be a link, and this, once you link in, it'll bring you to this website. So important to note that the WPI Manning loan is a loan that is offered by the school, but it's managed by an outside loan servicer called Heartland ECSI. Our finances department works with ECSI to make sure that students are set up to what they need as far as this institute loan. Similar to the direct loans, there are requirements that are needed, and I was gonna talk a little bit about that because I think it is important to note. And similar to that, the Manning loan has requirements as well. So actually, I'm gonna back up for a moment to right here. So if you see here, required financial aid documents and required additional documentation, you're gonna have notices that say, okay, here's my financial aid package, here's my e-bill, and these are credits on my account. The ones that are credited that have loan in the word, so if it's a federal direct loans, unsubsidized loan, or subsidized loan, or Manning loan, all of those that are on your award as a credit will remain there, so they'll be subtracted out of your bill. However, funds will not disperse to an account until one, classes start, and more importantly, students complete their requirements, the additional requirements, which are to sign promissory notes and entrance counseling. On your student portal, you'll have some information to link into that. But for the federal loans, to accept those loans, you would do the same thing as you did when you completed the FAFSA. So you would log in to studentloans.gov and you would do entrance counseling and sign your master promissory note. Those are the two main steps involved in making sure that those direct loans are going to pay to your account and disperse to your account once you complete those requirements. And as I mentioned here, if you have the WPI Manning loan, you'll be able to link to this site here, which is through Heartland ECSI, and doing the same steps. You would register, and then you would complete your entrance counseling as well as sign your promissory notes. And those are the two steps involved with the Manning. Just when you think you're all done, some students are selected for verification. So on your SAR report, which is your student aid report that you would have received from the FAFSA, it typically will let you know, hey, you've been randomly selected for verification. If not, not to worry, our office will reach out to you and let you know if you were selected if you weren't sure. And we will be reaching out to say, hey, the federal government has selected you for you're not in any trouble. It just means that we have to randomly select to participate in this program, require more information. And we will be reaching out to families. If we have not already, you may see that in your student portal as additional requirements. And those requirements are simply just verifying the income information and the housing information and data points that were listed on the FAFSA. And in order to participate in receiving direct loans or any aid, whether it be direct loans or need-based aid grants or scholarships, you would need to complete these requirements in order for your aid to disperse to your account. So a couple of little plugs that I wanted to show. So we have this great website here that we've put together this year, and it's for undergraduate students new to WPI. It's a great link. It offers financial aid information, so I would invite you to check that out. And if you have any questions that we are not able to answer today, or as we go through, you certainly can email us at our email address above, and we have a team of amazing staff that help to answer those questions for you, or even provide you resources in order to kind of navigate that process. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lynn and Rosie. We appreciate it. Hopefully that was helpful for everyone in the audience here. So there are a few questions that came in, and we will go through those now. But if anyone has any additional questions, please feel free to use the chat feature or the Q&A feature on your bottom toolbar, and we can get to those. So Rosie, you were showing screenshots of the student portal. Is there a parent portal?
Not that I'm familiar with. No, I've never heard of a parent portal. No.
Okay, so there's no parent portal there. And so just to confirm, the financial aid packages that students have already received will show on the bill at this.
Yes, that's correct. So anything that the student has been awarded that's accepted will show on the bill. And one thing that we kind of didn't touch upon is those direct loans that Rosie was speaking about. You would, if you wanted to decline that loan, you would do that on the student portal that Rosie had showcased.
Awesome, thank you. So there's a student here who did not receive a notification about their e-bill.
It definitely goes to the WPI email, so they might want to check their junk account or elsewhere. If they still cannot access it, just email, the bursar's office, and we can certainly send an email version of that.
Okay, and so that was bursar@wpi.edu?
That's correct, yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. I'll put that in the chat in a minute. So if they choose to go remote, how would the housing and meal plan charges change on their accounts?
So there is a intent survey that is available until next week. The deadline is next week. And at that point, the housing office will be, anyone that has decided they wish to go remote will be removing housing and meal plan charges. We will be sending an updated bill at that time.
Awesome, thank you.
I saw, Ryan, if I can just interject, I did neglect to mention outside scholarships, and I thought I saw a question in the chat. So outside scholarships are handled through sort of both offices, the student accounts and financial aid. So what we do is when we receive notification from the student of the award, it depends on how the letter reads, whether or not we give a pending credit to the account. So if the letter indicates that the scholarship will be paid to WPI, we do post a pending credit to the student account, and then we do let the student aid office know as well, because they do have to make sure that you don't go over budget with any of those outside awards. There is a specific email for that. It's outsideaid@wpi.edu, and students can submit a PDF of that scholarship, and we will process that within our two teams.
And there is a link, I think I've seen it on the Bursar's website, where it says outside scholarships, that you can literally click right in, and it follows you through the steps to take. Once you enter that information, as Lynn mentioned, they'll put information in on their end and then share that with us so that we can make sure that those funds fit. Once we'll add that in, the outside scholarship that is reported, and then you'll actually get an email saying, hey, there's been a change on your student portal. If you want to check out, there's been a change to your award, and then you'll be able to log in and see that. And I think it's important to check that frequently, because sometimes we might add it in, and, you know, as Lynn mentioned, it could be a fund, a scholarship that could be for the spring, but we may have added it in the fall because we thought it was fall. So sometimes there are, you know, just simple errors that happen because we don't have all of the information, but putting it out there helps for students and families to kind of verify that with us too.
Thank you. So someone did ask if they would be able to access this webinar after the session. Absolutely. After this webinar ends, we will be sending you a link with this recorded webinar. So if you do want to access it later on, or if you have another question you want to reference, this will definitely be available to everyone. Awesome. Okay. Any other questions? Awesome. So someone has a raised hand. So I will let you talk.
Hello. So I have a question. It says the independent verification, and it gives me a PDF, but I can't copy and then edit it out. So
Awesome. Any other questions? So we have a question here. So what forms do we need to fill out for institutional loans, and how do we find them on Heartland?
Excellent. So as far as forms go, I tested it the other day, so I believe that you can actually click on a link within your student portal to link into the requirements to register to what is required. However, our office does do outreach. I say our office, it's finance's office, it's a different office, but we're involved with them. We assist where needed, but they'll do outreach to you, giving you a link that says, you've been awarded the WPI Manning loan. It'll go to your WPI email, and then you'll have another contact that says, from the finances office saying, here is your PIN. When you click in, you want to enter this information. It's typically 2 separate emails. I know we're in the process of tweaking that and changing it this year. I'm not sure if it's completely done yet, but for the most part, you're going to be looking out for those 2 emails. It's similar to like getting a bank card. They don't want to send 2 in the same, so you'll have one that says, yes, you've been awarded this, and another one that says, here's the PIN. As far as requirements for accepting those loans, they're very similar to the direct loans that you're accepting as well. You're reading the loan agreement, and you're signing it saying your promissory note saying I promise to pay this loan back once I graduate, or you know, if I don't go to grad school, you go and pay the loan back. And then the entrance counseling, which really breaks it down so that you can understand what you're really signing, the terms, how the loan works, what the specificities are of that loan that you're agreeing to. So that's really it, those 2 steps. Once you—
And I'm sorry, Rosie, I was going to say—
No, jump in, yes, thank you.
I believe those emails go out in August. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we have a few more questions here. So we are obtaining a loan from an outside source. How and when do we begin this process to pay WPI through the outside source?
Okay, so that's a great question. Many families use a combination really of financing. So whether we talked about TMS, the tuition management system, payment plan, families will also pay with outside sources, outside loans. Did you say loans, Ryan? Outside?
An outside source, for example, Discover.
Okay, perfect. So, so families will apply for that loan. So whether it's Discover or any type of lender, they would apply for that loan. And once they've applied for that loan and completed all the requirements on that loan, which is similar to signing disclosure agreements, then that loan will be forwarded to the lender will forward it to our loan counselor in the financial aid office, our student aid office, who will then see that loan, attach it to that student's account, and our loan counselor will go through to make sure that amount that you're borrowing does not exceed the cost of attendance, so that you're not over borrowing. If you're not sure how much exactly to borrow and you borrow up to cost, then the counselor will reduce that so you're only borrowing what you need. And then the other point of your question was, how do we then pay that loan? So those funds will actually go right into the student account. So the bursar's office will see that as a credit pending, similar to outside scholarship, and it'll pay to the account once the student starts school. For those families that want to borrow up to cost so that they have extra funds to cover indirect costs such as books or supplies or personal expenses, that's when you could request a refund of any additional aid that was put, or loans that were put on the student account. And important to note is that those funds can only once the student has started classes and add drop period completes is when funds can be taken out.
Thank you. So another question here. So are scholarships reevaluated each academic year and automatically offered, or do students have to apply to them again?
Another great question. So scholarships, depending on the type they are, but we level fund, which means you typically will see the same aid on your award year to year. However, it's important to note that one, we need to complete the FAFSA each year so that we can determine if you're still eligible for the WPI need-based scholarship or federal scholarship aid that you have on there. In order to retain scholarship aid, and that's one thing that one of the, what we do in our office is we encourage students to reach out to us. We do have financial literacy events, but we do want students to understand, to maintain or retain their scholarship and merit, they don't have to reapply for it other than completing the FAFSA. We review aid at the end of the academic year to make sure that you've passed the classes that you need in order to retain that aid. So you have to be making satisfactory academic progress. And we know WPI students are brilliant, so they're probably going to be just fine. Students sometimes will take extra classes, but there's a required amount. So as long as they're maintaining that, then their aid is retained. And just a caveat, if they happen to not pass as many classes as they need to, they don't lose all their aid. It's a small percentage that we would remove. And then if they do well or make up that class that they may have missed, then their aid is returned the following year.
Thank you. So we have a question here for Lynn. So how much is the fee if you want to pay your e-bills through a credit or debit card?
It's based on the amount that you're paying, and it's 2.75% of that amount.
And then the other options to pay with no fee?
That is an electronic check. So you would simply just enter in your bank routing and account information, and it gets automatically deducted from your checking account.
Thank you.
Sure. Great question. Thank you.
Okay, so those are all the questions we have right now. So thank you very much to Rosie and Lynn for sharing this information with us. And a big thank you to the families and students. Thank you for taking the time to connect with WPI, understand your bill. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to Lynn through the bursar's office. So it was bursar@wpi.edu, or Rosie through the financial aid and literacy office, which is, what's the email, Rosie?
So it's FINAID, FINAID @wpi.edu.
Awesome. Thank you. So thank you for joining us, and we will be in touch with the recorded webinar for you to reference. So have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
I do know
Bye.
we're linking the webinar too, so if you need it.